The morning sun cast long shadows across the palace gardens as William stood by the window of his private study. His hands trembled slightly as he held the medical report that would change everything. The words blurred before his eyes, but their meaning was crystal clear. 6 months, maybe less. Kate entered the room quietly, carrying a cup of tea as she had done every morning for the past 20 years. She noticed the papers in his hands immediately, the way his shoulders sagged with an invisible weight. Without a word, she set the cup down and moved to stand beside him. "How long have you known?" she asked softly, her voice steady despite the fear creeping into her heart. William turned to face his wife, the woman who had been his anchor through every storm. Her brown hair caught the morning light, and her eyes held that familiar warmth that had first captured his heart during their university days. Even now, facing the unthinkable, she was his strength. "The doctor called yesterday evening," he whispered. "I wanted one more normal morning with you before everything changed." Kate reached for his hands, feeling how cold they had become. She had noticed the symptoms over the past months, the fatigue he tried to hide, the way he sometimes struggled for breath during their evening walks, the occasional confusion that he dismissed as stress from royal duties. Deep down, she had known something was wrong, but hope had kept her from voicing her fears. "We'll face this together," she said firmly, "just like we've faced everything else." William pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her perfume. They stood there in silence, holding each other as the weight of their new reality settled around them. Outside, the world continued as normal. Palace staff went about their duties, tourists gathered at the gates hoping for a glimpse of royalty, and newspapers prepared their morning headlines about political matters and social events. None of them knew that inside these walls, a love story that had inspired millions was approaching its most difficult chapter. The diagnosis was aggressive. The rare heart condition had been quietly weakening William's system for years, hidden behind his active lifestyle and royal responsibilities. The doctors spoke of treatments, experimental procedures, and managing symptoms, but their eyes told a different story. They were buying time, not offering cures. Kate insisted on attending every medical appointment. She took notes, asked questions, and researched everything she could find about the condition. She became William's advocate and protector, scheduling his days around rest periods and making sure he took his medications exactly as prescribed. But, most importantly, she made sure their remaining time together was filled with joy rather than despair. They decided to keep the diagnosis private initially, sharing the news only with their closest family members. The children, now adults with their own lives and responsibilities, gathered at the palace that weekend. The conversations were difficult, filled with tears and desperate hopes for miracles, but also with an outpouring of love that reminded everyone of what truly mattered. William had always been a private person, despite living his entire life in the public eye. The thought of his illness becoming tabloid fodder filled him with dread. But Kate helped him see another perspective. Their love story had always belonged to the people in some way. From their fairy tale wedding watched by billions to their years of service and dedication to various causes, they had shared their joys with the world. Perhaps, she suggested gently, they could also share this journey. "People love you," she told him one evening as they sat in their private garden. "They've celebrated our happiness, watched our children grow up, and found hope in our story. Maybe they deserve to be part of this chapter too." William considered her words carefully. He thought about the thousands of letters they received each year from people sharing their own struggles and finding inspiration in the royal family's resilience. He remembered visiting hospitals and meeting families facing terminal diagnoses, how they had drawn strength from his presence and words of encouragement. Now he was on the other side of that conversation. The decision to go public came gradually. They would announce the diagnosis in their own time and their own way, focusing not on the sadness of the situation but on the gratitude they felt for the life they had built together. They wanted their story to continue inspiring hope, even in the face of heartbreak. As they planned their announcement, William and Kate also began planning how they would spend their remaining time together. There were places they wanted to visit again: the Scottish cottage where they had honeymooned, the beach in Wales where William had proposed, the university campus where they had first met. They wanted to create new memories while honoring the old ones. They also wanted to complete some unfinished business. There were charitable projects close to their hearts that needed their attention, family traditions they wanted to pass down to their children, and personal dreams they had postponed for royal duties. Every moment became precious, every conversation meaningful, every touch a treasure to be remembered. The palace staff noticed changes in the royal couple's routine. They spent more time in private, took longer walks in the garden, and seemed to cherish simple moments that others might take for granted. There was a tenderness in their interactions that spoke of deep love and limited time, though the staff didn't yet know the reason behind it. William began writing letters to Kate, to their children, to his brother, and to the people of the nation he had served his entire life. He wanted to leave behind words that would comfort and inspire long after he was gone. Kate encouraged this project, knowing that his thoughts and feelings would be a precious legacy for generations to come. In the quiet moments before sleep, they talked about everything and nothing. They shared memories of their early days together, laughed about their children's antics, and discussed their hopes for the future, a future that would look very different than they had once imagined. These conversations became sacred, a time when they could be completely honest about their fears, their gratitude, and their unwavering love for each other. The world outside remained unaware of the drama unfolding within the palace walls. Royal watchers speculated about upcoming events and appearances, unaware that each public engagement was now carefully considered in light of William's declining health. Kate became his shield, subtly adjusting their schedule and protecting him from unnecessary stress while maintaining the appearance of normalcy. As the first month passed since the diagnosis, William found himself looking at everything with new eyes. The way Kate laughed at his jokes, the sound of rain against their bedroom window, the feeling of sunshine on his face during their garden walks. Everything became more vivid, more meaningful, more precious. He was learning to live fully in each moment, knowing that their number was limited. Kate, meanwhile, was fighting her own battle with grief and denial. She researched alternative treatments, sought second opinions, and prayed for miracles while simultaneously preparing for the inevitable. She was determined to make every day count, to create a final chapter of their love story that would honor everything they had shared and built together. Their love, tested by time, royal duty, and public scrutiny, was about to face its ultimate challenge. But, as they held each other close each night, both William and Kate knew that whatever came next, their bond was unbreakable. They had created something beautiful together, a family, a legacy of service, and a love story that had touched millions of hearts around the world. The announcement of William's illness would soon change everything. But, for now, in these quiet mourning moments, they held on to each other and prepared to face their greatest challenge with the same grace, dignity, and love that had defined their remarkable journey together. The morning of the announcement arrived with unusual stillness in the palace. Kate woke early, as had become her habit, to spend these precious quiet moments watching William sleep. His breathing was more labored now, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. But, in sleep, he looked peaceful. She traced his familiar features with her gaze, memorizing every detail as if seeing him for the first time. William stirred and caught her watching him. "Good morning, my love," he whispered, his voice raspy but warm. "Good morning," she replied, leaning down to kiss his forehead. "Are you ready for today?" Today they would tell the world. Their communications team had worked carefully to craft a statement that would convey the gravity of the situation while maintaining the dignity and hope that had always characterized their public presence. William had insisted on recording a personal video message, wanting people to hear the news directly from him rather than through official statements and speculation. After a quiet breakfast together, they made their way to the private sitting room where the recording would take place. The camera crew was minimal, just their most trusted media team who had worked with them for years. Kate sat beside William, her hand resting gently on his arm, providing silent support. "My dear friends," William began, looking directly into the camera with the steady gaze that had comforted a nation through many difficult times. "Kate and I have always believed in sharing our joys and challenges with you, as you have generously shared yours with us over the years. Today, we must share news that is difficult for us personally, but we hope that in sharing it, we can continue to serve and inspire in our own way." His voice remained calm and measured as he explained the diagnosis, the prognosis, and their decision to remain as active as possible in their royal duties for as long as his health permitted. Kate squeezed his arm gently when his voice wavered slightly, her presence giving him strength. "Kate and I have been blessed with a love that has sustained us through every challenge," he continued. "That love will carry us through this as well. We ask not for sympathy, but for your continued support for the causes we care about and for the understanding that our time together has become even more precious. Kate spoke briefly at the end, her voice clear and strong. We have been overwhelmed by love throughout our lives together. That love, from William, from our children, from our families, and from all of you, has been the greatest gift we could ever receive. We promise to face the coming months with the same hope and determination that has always guided us. The video was released simultaneously across all platforms, accompanied by a written statement providing more details about William's condition and their future plans. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, flowers began appearing at palace gates. Social media exploded with messages of love and support from around the world. Hashtag Love for William and hashtag Will and Kate Forever began trending globally as people shared their favorite memories of the royal couple and expressed their heartbreak at the news. The Queen issued a statement expressing her pride in William's courage and her full support for whatever decisions he and Kate felt were best for their family. Other members of the royal family rallied around them, offering both public support and private comfort during this difficult time. But it was the response from ordinary people that touched William and Kate most deeply. Letters poured in from every corner of the globe, from children who had learned about love by watching their relationship, from couples who had faced similar challenges, from families who had found hope in their example, and from countless individuals whose lives had been touched by their charitable work over the years. One letter particularly moved them both. It came from an elderly woman whose husband had passed away from a similar condition years earlier. She wrote, "Your love story has been a beacon of light for so many of us. Watching you two navigate this final chapter with such grace will teach the world that true love doesn't end with death. It transforms and continues to inspire long after we're gone." William's health became the subject of constant media attention, but Kate was fiercely protective of their privacy. She worked with their security team to ensure they could still enjoy simple pleasures, walks in their garden, quiet dinners together, time with their children, without the intrusion of telephoto lenses and speculative headlines. Their children proved to be pillars of strength during this time. They rearranged their schedules to spend more time at home, creating new traditions and memories while honoring old ones. Family dinners became sacred events, filled with laughter, storytelling, and the kind of deep conversations that occur when everyone knows time is limited. William insisted on maintaining as normal a schedule as possible. He continued his royal engagements, though they were carefully planned around his energy levels and medical appointments. Kate accompanied him to every event, providing subtle support and stepping in seamlessly when he needed to rest. Their public appearances during this period became deeply moving experiences. Crowds gathered not just to see royalty, but to witness love in action. The way Kate adjusted William's scarf on a cold day, how he automatically reached for her hand when walking, the looks they exchanged during speeches. Every gesture was observed and cherished by people who saw in their relationship a reflection of enduring love. At a children's hospital visit that month, William spent extra time with a young boy who was also facing a serious illness. The boy asked him directly, "Are you scared?" William considered the question carefully before answering honestly, "Sometimes. But then, I look at my wife and remember that love is stronger than fear." The moment was captured by photographers and became one of the most shared images of the year. Kate began writing more frequently in her private journal, documenting not just the difficult moments, but the beautiful ones as well. She wrote about William's continued sense of humor despite his pain, his determination to complete important charitable initiatives, and his unwavering concern for her well-being even as his own health declined. These writings would later become a treasured record of their final months together. They decided to take a trip to Scotland, to the remote cottage where they had spent their honeymoon so many years ago. The journey was challenging for William, but being there together, away from the pressures and scrutiny of royal life, gave them both peace. They walked slowly along familiar paths, sat by the fireplace they had shared as newlyweds, and talked about their dreams, both realized and unrealized. "Do you have any regrets?" Kate asked him one evening as they watched the sunset from their cottage window. William thought for a long moment. "I regret that we won't grow old together the way we planned. I regret that I won't see our grandchildren grow up. But I don't regret a single moment of our life together. Every challenge, every joy, every ordinary Tuesday morning. It was all perfect because I shared it with you." During their stay in Scotland, they also made some important decisions about the future. William wanted to ensure that Kate would be supported and protected after he was gone. But, more than that, he wanted to make sure she would continue to live fully and find joy again. They talked openly about her future, about the possibility of her finding love again someday, and about how their love would always be a foundation she could build upon rather than a limitation that held her back. These conversations were painful, but necessary. William wanted Kate to know that his greatest wish for her was happiness, even if that happiness eventually included someone else. Kate couldn't imagine a future without him, but she promised to remain open to whatever life might bring, knowing that their love would always be part of her story. The trip to Scotland also marked a turning point in William's condition. The travel had exhausted him more than expected, and it became clear that future trips would be limited. They returned to London with a renewed sense of urgency about making the most of their remaining time together. Back at the palace, they threw themselves into completing projects that mattered to them. William worked with writers to finalize a book about their charitable work, hoping it would inspire others to continue the causes they had championed. Kate organized their personal photographs and mementos, creating albums for their children that would help preserve family memories and stories. They also began planning what would become their final major public appearance together, a special event celebrating their 20th wedding anniversary. Originally planned as a joyous celebration, it would now serve as a different kind of milestone, a chance for them to thank the people who had supported them throughout their journey and to celebrate a love that had inspired millions. The planning for this event consumed much of their energy in the following weeks. They wanted it to be perfect, not as a farewell, but as a celebration of everything they had built together. Every detail mattered, from the music to the flowers to the guest list that would include not just dignitaries, but representatives from all the charities and causes they had supported over the years. As William's condition continued to deteriorate gradually, Kate found herself becoming even more protective of their time together. She learned to read the subtle signs of his discomfort and fatigue, adjusting their days accordingly. She became expert at creating pockets of peace and joy in the midst of medical appointments and difficult conversations about the future. Their love, always strong, seemed to intensify during these months. They found new depths of intimacy and connection, born from the knowledge that their time was limited. Every conversation became precious, every touch meaningful, every moment together a gift to be treasured. The world watched their journey with a mixture of admiration and heartbreak. Their grace in facing terminal illness, their unwavering commitment to each other, and their determination to continue serving others despite their personal challenges inspired countless people facing their own struggles. Love letters and drawings from children around the world filled their private offices, each one a reminder that their story was touching hearts and giving hope to people everywhere. As they prepared for their anniversary celebration, both William and Kate knew it would likely be their last major public event together. The weight of this knowledge made every planning detail significant, every decision meaningful. They were not just organizing a party. They were creating a final gift to each other and to the world that had shared in their love story for so many years. The anniversary celebration was set for a golden October evening, exactly 20 years and 6 months after their wedding day. Westminster Abbey, where they had exchanged vows before a watching world, would once again be the setting for a moment that would touch millions of hearts. But this time, instead of a beginning, it would mark a celebration of a love story that had inspired a generation. Kate spent the morning of the event helping William dress, a ritual that had become more complex as his condition progressed. His formal military uniform required careful adjustments to accommodate his breathing apparatus, which he would wear discreetly beneath his jacket. She fastened each button with tender care, her fingers lingering on the medals that represented his years of service. "You look as handsome as the day I married you," she told him, adjusting his collar with the same loving attention she had always given to such details. William smiled, though the effort cost him more than it once had. "And you look more beautiful than ever," he replied, meaning every word. Kate wore a deep blue gown that complemented her eyes, the same shade as the dress she had worn to their engagement announcement so many years ago. Around her neck was the sapphire necklace he had given her on their 10th anniversary, each stone catching the afternoon light like captured stars. The Abbey filled with guests throughout the afternoon. In attendance were family members, close friends, and representatives from every organization the couple had supported during their marriage. But perhaps most meaningful were the hundreds of ordinary people whose lives had been touched by William and Kate's work, children from schools they had visited, patients from hospitals where they had volunteered, families who had received support from their charitable foundation. As the ceremony began, Kate walked down the same aisle where she had become a princess 20 years earlier. This time, instead of walking toward her future, she was walking beside the man who had become her whole world. William took her arm, and together they moved slowly toward the altar, their pace accommodating his careful breathing but their dignity intact. The service was a celebration of love in all its forms: romantic love, family love, and the love of service to others. The Archbishop spoke movingly about the example William and Kate had set, not just in their happiness but in their grace during times of trial. Children from their patronage organizations sang hymns, their young voices filling the ancient space with hope and beauty. When it came time for William to speak, Kate helped him to the podium, remaining close but allowing him to address the gathered crowd in his own words. His voice was softer than it once had been, but it carried the same warmth and sincerity that had always characterized his public speaking. 20 years ago, he began, Kate and I promised to love each other for better or worse, in sickness and in health. We could never have imagined then what those words would truly mean. We have been blessed with so many better moments: the births of our children, achievements in our charitable work, quiet evenings at home, and adventures around the world. But it is perhaps in these recent months, facing the worst and the sickness, that we have discovered the true depth of our love for each other and felt the overwhelming love that surrounds us from all of you. He paused, breathing carefully before continuing. Kate has shown me what it means to love without condition, without reservation, and without fear. She has been my strength when I had none, my hope when I felt lost, and my peace in the storm. If our love story inspires others, it is because of her courage, her grace, and her unwavering faith in the power of love to overcome any challenge. Kate's eyes filled with tears as he spoke, but her smile never wavered. When he finished, she joined him at the podium, her hand finding his as naturally as breathing. Some love stories are brief, but beautiful, she said, her voice clear and strong. Others span decades, but grow routine. We have been blessed with a love that has been both enduring and exciting, both comfortable and challenging, both private and shared with the world. William has taught me that true love is not about finding someone perfect, but about loving someone perfectly despite their imperfections, and helping them love themselves the same way. She turned to look at him as she spoke her next words. Every day with you has been a gift. Every challenge we have faced together has made us stronger. Every moment of joy we have shared has been multiplied because we shared it together. You have been my greatest love, my dearest friend, and my most trusted partner in everything that matters. The ceremony continued with readings from their children, now adults who spoke with the wisdom of those who had witnessed true love in action their entire lives. Their daughter read from their mother's favorite poem about love transcending death, while their son shared a letter his father had written to him about the importance of finding someone who makes you want to be your best self. As the sun set outside the abbey, hundreds of candles were lit throughout the sanctuary. Each flame represented a prayer, a hope, or a memory shared by those whose lives had been touched by William and Kate's love story. The soft glow transformed the space into something magical, a fitting backdrop for what everyone knew would be their final public celebration together. The couple's final act of the ceremony was the renewal of their wedding vows. They had written new words for this occasion, promises that acknowledged their changed circumstances while affirming their eternal commitment. William's voice shook with emotion as he promised to love Kate beyond this lifetime and into whatever comes next. Kate's response was equally moving as she vowed to carry our love forward and honor it always. The reception that followed was intimate, held in the palace's most beautiful stateroom. Instead of the grand celebration that had followed their original wedding, this gathering felt more like a family reunion. Stories were shared, tears were shed, and laughter filled the air as people celebrated not just William and Kate's marriage, but the legacy of love and service they had created together. During the reception, William surprised Kate with one final gift, a video montage of messages from people around the world whose lives had been touched by their story. Teachers spoke about students who had been inspired by their example. Couples shared how William and Kate's relationship had given them hope during difficult times in their own marriages. Children drew pictures of the royal couple, adding hearts and rainbows to show their love. But Perhaps the most moving message came from an elderly man who had been married to his wife for 60 years before losing her to illness. Watching you two face this challenge with such grace has helped me understand that love doesn't end when life does, he said. Your love will continue to inspire long after you're gone, just as my wife's love continues to sustain me every day. As the evening wound down, William grew visibly tired, but he insisted on staying until the last guest had been properly thanked. Kate remained by his side, subtly supporting him while allowing him to maintain his dignity. Their children helped receive the final well-wishers, already stepping into roles they would need to fill in the months to come. In the weeks following the anniversary celebration, William's condition deteriorated more rapidly. The energy he had summoned for the event seemed to have been a final surge, and both he and Kate knew that their remaining time was now measured in weeks rather than months. They faced this reality with the same grace they had shown throughout their public life. But, in private, the weight of approaching loss was almost overwhelming. Kate arranged for William to record personal messages for their children's future milestones, graduations, weddings, the births of grandchildren he would never meet. These recordings were painful to make, but precious beyond measure, ensuring that his voice and wisdom would continue to guide their family long after he was gone. They also spent hours looking through photo albums together, reliving their journey from university sweethearts to global icons. Each picture told a story, their nervous early public appearances, their confidence growing over the years, their joy at becoming parents, their pride in their charitable accomplishments, and their evident love for each other in every single frame. William insisted on writing thank you notes to everyone who had played a significant role in their lives together. These letters, written in his increasingly shaky handwriting, became treasured keepsakes for recipients who understood they were holding final words from someone who had touched their lives profoundly. As November arrived, bringing shorter days and longer nights, William spent more time resting. But, even in his weakened state, he remained focused on Kate's well-being and future happiness. He spoke often about his hopes for her life after he was gone, encouraging her to continue their charitable work, to travel to places they had planned to visit together, and eventually to open her heart to new experiences and even new love. "Promise me something," he said one evening as they sat together by the fireplace in their private sitting room. "Promise me you won't let our story end with my death. Let it be a chapter, not a conclusion. There's so much more life for you to live, so much more love for you to give and receive." Kate struggled with this request, unable to imagine a future without him. But she understood the love behind his words. He wanted her to honor their marriage not by ending her life when it ended, but by living it fully, carrying their love forward as a foundation for whatever came next. Their quiet moments together became even more precious. They would sit in companionable silence, Kate reading while William dozed, or they would talk softly about their children, their hopes for the future of their charities, and their gratitude for the extraordinary life they had shared together. Even facing death, they found peace in each other's presence. The palace staff, many of whom had worked with the couple for years, provided support with unprecedented discretion and care. They ensured that William and Kate's final weeks together were protected from outside intrusion, creating a cocoon of privacy where love could flourish even in the shadow of loss. As William's breathing became more labored and his energy more limited, the couple made the decision to stop most public appearances. This was announced quietly, without drama, simply as a temporary adjustment to his schedule. But those who knew them well understood that this marked the beginning of the final phase of their journey together. Christmas preparations began early that year, as everyone wanted to ensure that William would be able to participate in family traditions one last time. Kate threw herself into creating the most magical holiday season possible, decorating their private quarters with all of William's favorite things, and planning intimate celebrations that would create lasting memories for their children and grandchildren. December brought an unusual warmth to London, as if nature itself was offering a final gentle gift to the couple whose love had touched so many lives. William's good days were becoming rarer, but when they came, he and Kate made the most of every precious hour. They would sit together in the palace garden, wrapped in blankets, watching the winter birds and talking about everything and nothing. On one such afternoon, William surprised Kate with a request that brought tears to her eyes. "Would you sing for me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "That song from our wedding reception, the one you sang when you thought no one was listening." Kate had forgotten he had heard her that night, 20 years ago, humming softly while they danced alone after all the guests had gone home. It had been a spontaneous moment of pure joy, her voice carrying a melody that had seemed to capture all her happiness. Now, facing the end of their time together, she found her voice again. Her soft rendition of At Last filled their private sitting room, her voice trembling with emotion but never breaking. William closed his eyes and smiled, transported back to that magical wedding night when their whole life together had stretched out before them, full of infinite possibility. When she finished, he opened his eyes and whispered, "Perfect, just like our whole life together." The Christmas season unfolded with careful attention to William's energy levels. Their children and grandchildren gathered for intimate celebrations, creating new memories while honoring old traditions. William insisted on reading the Christmas story to the youngest grandchildren, his voice soft but steady as he shared words of hope and love that seemed especially meaningful this year. Kate photographed everything, William's hands as he helped decorate the tree, his smile when the grandchildren performed a Christmas play they had written, his peaceful expression as he dozed by the fireplace while family chaos swirled around him. These photos would become precious treasures, capturing love in its most authentic moments. On Christmas Eve, William gave Kate his final gift, a leather-bound journal filled with letters he had written to her over their years together. Some were from their early courtship, others from significant moments in their marriage, and many from these recent months as his illness progressed. The final entry was dated just days earlier. "My dearest Kate, if you are reading this, it means our time together has ended, but our love story continues. You have been the greatest gift of my life, the answer to every prayer I never knew I was praying. These letters are my attempt to leave you something tangible of our love, words that will remind you in difficult moments of how deeply you were cherished. But more than that, I hope they will remind you that love like ours doesn't end, it transforms. Take our love with you into whatever comes next, not as a burden but as a blessing. You have loved me perfectly, Kate. Now I need you to love yourself the same way and find the courage to let others love you too. This is not goodbye, my darling. It's just until we meet again." Kate held the journal against her heart, overwhelmed by the gift of his words but also by the weight of her approaching loss. William watched her face carefully, reaching out to touch her cheek where tears had begun to fall. "No sadness on Christmas Eve," he said gently. "Tomorrow we celebrate everything wonderful that has brought us to this moment. Today we just love each other exactly as we are, exactly where we are." Their final Christmas together was bittersweet, but beautiful. The family gathered in their private dining room, sharing stories and laughter despite the shadow of approaching loss. William managed to stay awake for most of the day, his eyes bright with love as he watched his children and grandchildren create memories around him. In the days following Christmas, William's condition declined rapidly. The doctors increased his pain medication, and he spent more time sleeping, but when he was awake, his mind remained clear and his focus stayed on Kate. He worried about how she would cope in the immediate aftermath of his death, about the media attention that would surround her, and about the loneliness she would face in their shared spaces. "I don't know how to do this without you," Kate confessed one evening as they lay together in their bed, her head resting on his shoulder. "You won't be without me," William replied, his voice weak but certain. "Every time you laugh, I'll be there. Every time you help someone in need, I'll be there. Every time you choose love over fear, hope over despair, I'll be there. You carry me with you now, Kate. You always will." As January arrived, bringing the new year they had both hoped William would see, his moments of consciousness became shorter but more intense. He used his limited energy to have final conversations with each of their children, sharing his love, his pride, and his hopes for their futures. These discussions, while heartbreaking, brought peace to everyone involved. The palace began quiet preparations for the inevitable. Plans were made for the funeral that would follow, but, more importantly, plans were made to support Kate through the difficult days ahead. The Queen herself called to offer both official and personal support, understanding from her own experience the unique challenges of grieving in the public eye. William's final week was spent in their private quarters, surrounded by love and peaceful silence. Kate rarely left his side, sleeping in a chair next to their bed so she could hold his hand through the night. Their children took turns sitting with him, sharing memories, reading his favorite books aloud, and simply being present for whatever time remained. On his last day, William was unusually alert, as if he had been saving his energy for one final gift to his family. He spent the morning with Kate, talking quietly about their life together, expressing his gratitude for every moment they had shared. He told her again about his hopes for her future, his confidence in her strength, and his eternal love that would transcend death. "Do you remember," he asked her, "that first day we met at university? You were arguing with someone about a book assignment, and I thought you were the most passionate person I had ever seen. I fell in love with that passion before I even knew your name." Kate smiled through her tears, remembering that day and the shy young man who had eventually worked up the courage to ask her to coffee. "You were so nervous," she recalled. "You spilled your tea all over your notes." "Best mistake I ever made," William whispered. "Led to the best conversation of my life up to that point." Well, until all the conversations that followed. As the afternoon sun slanted through their bedroom window, casting golden light across the walls where their wedding photo and family portraits hung, William's breathing became more labored. Kate called their children, and soon the room was filled with quiet voices sharing love and saying goodbye. William's last words were simple but profound. "Thank you for loving me so perfectly. Thank you for this beautiful life." He was looking directly at Kate when he spoke, his eyes holding hers until the very end. Kate held his hand as his breathing gradually slowed, and then stopped, her own breathing the only sound in the room as their children gathered around them. In that moment of profound loss, she felt not just the ending of his life, but the completion of a love story that had touched millions of hearts around the world. The announcement of William's death was made with simple dignity. His Royal Highness Prince William passed away peacefully this evening surrounded by his family. The love and support shown to their Royal Highnesses during his illness has been a source of great comfort, and the family is grateful for the privacy being given to them at this time of profound grief. Within hours, flowers began appearing at palace gates, growing into a sea of color and condolence that stretched for blocks. Messages poured in from world leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people whose lives had been touched by William and Kate's love story. The outpouring of grief was matched only by the celebration of a life well lived and a love that had inspired a generation. Kate spent the night alone with William's body, talking to him as she had every night for 20 years, sharing her fears about the future and her gratitude for their past. She told him about the flowers outside, about the messages from around the world, about the love that surrounded them even in death. As dawn broke over London, painting the sky in soft pastels that seemed to reflect the bittersweet beauty of their love story, Kate finally understood what William had meant when he said their story wouldn't end with his death. The love they had shared, the example they had set, the lives they had touched together, all of that would continue. Their love story was transforming from a beautiful beginning and middle into something even more powerful, a legacy that would inspire others to love deeply, live fully, and face life's challenges with grace and dignity. William was gone, but their love remained, woven into the fabric of countless other love stories around the world. Kate rose from her bedside vigil as the sun fully emerged, knowing that the hardest part of her journey was just beginning. But she also knew that she would not walk that path alone. She carried William with her now in ways that death could never diminish, and she was surrounded by a world full of people who had been touched by their love and would help her honor it in the days to come. The morning after William's death, Kate woke to a silence that felt different from any she had ever experienced. For 20 years, her days had begun with the sound of his breathing, his quiet movements as he started his morning routine, or his soft voice saying good morning. Now there was only the distant sound of London awakening outside her window, and the overwhelming reality that her life had fundamentally changed forever. She lay in their bed for a long time, staring at the place where William had taken his final breath. The sheets still held his scent, and his pillow bore the impression of his head. These physical reminders of his presence were both comforting and heartbreaking, tangible proof that their life together had been real, even as it felt impossibly distant now. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Her daughter entered quietly, carrying a cup of tea prepared exactly as Kate liked it, a skill learned from watching William perform this same ritual every morning for years. They sat together in silence, two women bonded by their shared love for the man they had just lost, finding comfort in each other's presence when words seemed inadequate. The days that followed blurred together in a whirlwind of funeral preparations, media statements, and an endless stream of visitors offering condolences. Kate moved through these obligations with the grace and dignity that had always characterized her public presence, but Those closest to her could see the profound grief in her eyes and the effort it took for her to maintain her composure. The funeral planning became a labor of love, a final opportunity to honor William's memory and celebrate the extraordinary life they had built together. Kate insisted on being involved in every detail, from the music selections that would tell their story to the flowers that would celebrate his life rather than mourn his death. She wanted the service to reflect not just William's royal status, but the man she had loved, someone who had found joy in simple pleasures, who had dedicated his life to service, and who had loved his family with unwavering devotion. Westminster Abbey was transformed once again, this time for a ceremony that would say goodbye to a beloved prince and celebrate a love story that had captured the world's imagination. The guest list included heads of state and celebrities, but also representatives from every charity William had supported, families who had been helped by their foundation, and ordinary people whose lives had been touched by his kindness and Kate's compassion. On the morning of the funeral, Kate dressed in black with the sapphire necklace William had given her, knowing it would be visible as a symbol of their enduring love. Her children stood with her as she prepared to face the world's media and the weight of global grief, drawing strength from their presence and from William's memory. The funeral service was a masterpiece of dignity and emotion. The Archbishop spoke movingly about William's life of service, his devotion to his family, and the example he had set in facing terminal illness with courage and grace. But it was Kate's eulogy that brought tears to millions of eyes around the world and would be remembered as one of the most powerful speeches ever given about love and loss. Standing at the podium where William had spoken just months earlier during their anniversary celebration, Kate looked out at the packed abbey and spoke from her heart. Her voice was steady but filled with emotion as she shared not just her grief but her gratitude for a love that had exceeded every dream. William once told me that the greatest gift we can give to those we love is the promise that we will continue to live fully after they are gone, she began. He made me promise that our love story would not end with his death, but would continue to inspire others to love deeply and live bravely. Standing here today, I make that promise not just to his memory, but to all of you who have shared in our journey. She spoke about their early days together, their growth as a couple, their joy in becoming parents, and their shared commitment to making the world a better place. But, most powerfully, she spoke about the lessons William's illness had taught them both about the true nature of love. Facing the end of our time together, we discovered that love is not diminished by death, it is refined by it, she said. Every petty argument seemed insignificant. Every moment of joy became precious. Every act of kindness took on deeper meaning. William's illness was devastating, but it also gave us the gift of conscious appreciation for our life together. Kate concluded her eulogy with words that would be quoted around the world for years to come. To those facing loss, let me tell you what William taught me. Grief is not the price we pay for love. It is love with nowhere to go. But that love doesn't disappear, it transforms. It becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Our love story is not ending today. It is becoming something larger than we ever imagined, something that will continue to touch hearts and inspire hope long after we are gone. The funeral procession that followed was unlike anything London had seen. Millions of people lined the streets, many throwing flowers or holding signs expressing their love for William and support for Kate. The outpouring of emotion was extraordinary, a testament to the impact their love story had made on people around the world. In the weeks following the funeral, Kate faced the difficult task of learning to live without the person who had been her constant companion for 2 decades. Well-meaning friends and family members offered advice about grief and healing, but she found that the process was uniquely personal and impossible to rush. Some days she felt strong and capable of honoring William's memory through continued charitable work. Other days she could barely get out of bed, overwhelmed by the simple reality that he was gone. The palace became both a comfort and a challenge. Every room held memories of their life together, but those same memories sometimes felt too painful to bear. Kate found herself gravitating toward their private garden, where she could feel closest to William while also finding peace in the natural beauty they had both loved. Letters continued to pour in from around the world, sharing how William and Kate's love story had impacted people's lives. Teachers wrote about using their relationship as an example when discussing marriage and commitment. Couples facing their own challenges shared how watching William and Kate navigate terminal illness had given them strength. Children sent drawings of rainbows and hearts, somehow understanding that love continues even after death. One letter particularly moved Kate. It came from a young woman whose husband had died in military service, leaving her with 2 small children. Watching you say goodbye to William with such grace has shown me that it's possible to honor our love while still building a future, she wrote. You're teaching the world that moving forward doesn't mean moving on, that healing doesn't require forgetting, and that loving again doesn't diminish what came before. As spring arrived, bringing new life to the palace gardens, Kate began to emerge from the deepest phase of her grief. She started accepting more public engagements, finding purpose in continuing the charitable work that had been so important to both her and William. She established a foundation in his memory focused on supporting families facing terminal illness, drawing from their own experience to help others navigate similar challenges. The foundation's first major initiative was a support program for couples dealing with serious illness, providing not just medical resources, but emotional support and practical guidance. Kate worked closely with the team developing these programs, sharing insights from her own experience while being careful to protect the private details of William's final months. Public reaction to Kate's return to public life was overwhelmingly supportive. People seemed to understand that her healing process would be gradual and that her strength came not from moving past her grief, but from integrating it into a new version of herself. She remained the same compassionate, dedicated person she had always been, but there was a new depth to her empathy and a new urgency to her commitment to helping others. 6 months after William's death, Kate made a decision that surprised many but reflected her growing understanding of what their love story truly meant. She agreed to participate in a documentary about love and loss, sharing her experience in the hope that it would help others facing similar challenges. The filming was emotional but healing, giving her a chance to speak openly about William's final months and the lessons they had learned together. The documentary, titled Love Transcendent, became one of the most watched programs in television history. Kate's honest discussion of grief, hope, and the continuing power of love resonated with viewers around the world. She spoke candidly about the difficult days, the unexpected moments of joy, and her slowly growing confidence that she could build a meaningful life that honored William's memory while embracing new possibilities. William's greatest gift to me was not just 20 wonderful years together, she said in the documentary's final moments. It was teaching me that love is not something we possess, but something we share, not something that ends, but something that evolves. Our love story continues every time someone is inspired to love more deeply because of what they witnessed in us. It continues every time someone facing loss finds hope in our example. It continues in the work I do, the causes I support, and the love I share with our children and grandchildren. As the first anniversary of William's death approached, Kate felt ready to face another milestone. She had learned that grief was not a problem to be solved, but a companion to be carried, that healing did not mean forgetting, but rather learning to hold love and loss simultaneously. She had discovered reserves of strength she never knew she possessed, and found new ways to honor the love story that had shaped her life. The anniversary was marked quietly, with a private memorial service attended by family and close friends. Kate read a letter she had written to William, sharing the events of the past year and her gratitude for the foundation their love had provided for everything that followed. She spoke to him as if he were there, because in many ways, he was. You were right about our love story not ending, she told him. It has become something bigger than us, something that continues to touch lives and inspire hope. I carry you with me every day, not as a burden, but as a blessing. Thank you for loving me so perfectly, and for teaching me that the greatest love stories are not those that never face challenges, but those that transform challenges into opportunities for deeper connection. As Kate looked toward the future, she did so with a heart that held both sadness and hope, loss and love, endings and new beginnings. William was gone, but their love story continued in every act of kindness she performed in his memory, every life that was touched by their example, and every person who found the courage to love deeply because they had witnessed what true love could accomplish. Their love story had indeed concluded in one sense. The earthly chapter of their life together had ended. But, in a deeper, more profound way, it was just beginning to reach its full impact. Millions of people around the world had learned from watching William and Kate, that love can triumph over any obstacle, that grace can be found in the darkest moments, and that the most beautiful love stories are not those that never face tragedy, but those that transform tragedy into hope. Kate's tears at William's funeral had been tears of profound grief, but they had also been tears of gratitude for a love that had exceeded every dream and left a legacy that would inspire generations to come. Their farewell had moved millions to tears not just because of the sadness of loss, but because of the beauty of what they had created together and the hope that such love could exist in the world. The love story of William and Kate would continue to be told and retold, not as a tragedy but as a testament to the transformative power of true love. It had concluded not with an ending but with a transformation, proving that the greatest love stories are those that continue to inspire long after the final chapter has been written.